All right, everybody, welcome back to the NARPM radio show. And as promised, I have Ron Holt with one of the coolest names that I've seen in a while. The with the pink zebra moving. Is that pink zebra?
Yeah,
And Ron, I was looking at your bio, and Pink Zebra is your second company. Your first company was Two Maids and a Mop, and you've taken that company national. And then did you sell? Did you sell that company, the Two
I
Maids and a
did. Yeah, a couple years ago. Yeah.
Okay, and now you're back for more. So it must have been so easy and not tumultuous at all. And you must have just said, "Screw this! I love this. I'm going to redo it again. And I'm going to do it in the moving industry." Is that is
I,
that?
I guess I'm sadistic and more than I thought. But yeah, I'm doing it all over again, and we'll see where it takes us. But I'd love to tell you the story as we get through our
Awesome.
conversation.
And I wanted to get you on because when you reached out, I looked into you a little bit and I'm like, oh, this is perfect because not, I don't know if how much you know about the single family management space, but there's a lot of consolidation happening right now. And there are a lot of players looking to expand nationally in this, in the race to get national. Like there are no real good I don't say that. I don't say real good. There are no real well-known national single-family management companies. There's some real known national multifamily, and so there's kind of a race to get there. So tell me first, when you started Two Maids and a Mop, was your vision to go national from the beginning? Like, tell me how that worked.
Yeah, so you're very similar. Your industry is very similar to the residential cleaning industry forever ago, 20 years ago now. At that time, there were a few there were a few national brands, but for the most part, it was a bunch of mom and pops just located across the country, extremely fragmented, some better than others, but there wasn't a major player that was disruptive enough to be considered like the it of that industry. And so that was one of the things that attracted me to the cleaning industry. I wanted to take it national from day one. Believe it or not, I never learned how to clean a house growing up as a kid, and wasn't really good at it even when I started Two Maids and a Mop in those early days. Not sure if I'm that great at it now either, but I love the idea of the recurring revenue model. I love the fact that there wasn't a real unified brand that was attacking the industry, and then I love the fact that it, it, the revenue base itself was populated at the time by high net worth folks who just wanted it. But I felt like over time that it would change and shift to a place where suburban families hired you because they needed you, not just because they wanted you. And that shift did occur over the next several years, and we kind of rode that wave for a long time because of it. So yeah, long story short, absolutely, I wanted to go national. Even though I just started with one office, we were inside a 250 square foot office space in Pensacola, Florida. But even inside those offices, I would tell everybody, customers, employees, vendors, I would tell everybody that one day we're going to be a nationwide household brand, and people laugh, roll their eyes, all those things.
Now, did you buy an existing company when you got into it since you had never cleaned before, or did you start literally from scratch?
From the ground up. That wasn't necessarily by design. I was super naive, and I had entered into what I thought was going to be a purchase agreement for a cleaning business. I'm going to say a lot of stuff, by the way, that makes me look smart. This is going to be one of those things that doesn't make me look very smart. And
Okay.
so I thought it was a purchase agreement. I changed everything about my life. I moved from Atlanta, Georgia, quit my job, which was a really good job, and assumed I was going to write a check for this cleaning business that I was purchasing. And then when I got down there, the owner backed out at the last minute and said, "Hey, we didn't even have a purchase agreement. We just had a non-binding letter of intent." So I
Oh,
know not the smartest decision, but I persevered and just
hey,
said,
well,
"Let's
you
do
made
this."
lemonade out of lemons
That's
at
right.
that point.
Yeah, so
So,
I learned a lot about the industry because of that process, and said, "I'm doing this, whether they sell that business to me or not." And they became my chief competitor, of course, right after we opened.
so you started in Pensacola. Now take me through the journey. Obviously you didn't know much. I'm guessing from day one you were not cleaning houses. You hired people from day one before you had clients. Like, how'd that work?
So I only cleaned houses the first day, and that was also not planned. I didn't plan to ever clean a house because I was, one, not good at it, and two, I knew my strengths, right? that wasn't going to be something that was going to be helpful to the business. But on the first day, still very naive as a young entrepreneur, I just assumed in the blue collar world was like the white collar world. You hired someone and they showed up to work. Turns out that they don't always show up to work in the blue collar world. And so we were called two maids and a mop. So what did I do? I hired two people. And only one of those two people showed up to work. And so I had to tag along and do something I wasn't prepared for. I was terrible. I did most of the things I contributed to that service was talking. But after that day, I said, okay, that's the last time I'm going to do that. I need to find. I'd rather spend a half a day, which is what I spent cleaning. I'd rather spend a half a day, networking and researching, brainstorming, even reading. That to me, it was work back in those days because I was trying to learn everything I could about marketing and customer service and even accounting. And so yeah, I never cleaned a whole lot of houses, but our customers were thankful for that as well.
So when you first started, like obviously you hang up a shingle. How'd you find those first clients?
Yeah, so this kind of dates me. So this was in the early 2000s. I actually opened on April Fool's Day of 2003. And, I mentioned the fact that I never cleaned a house before, but that actually, I didn't know this at the time, became a bit of an asset toward me, for me at least, because since I wasn't part of the cleaning solution, I didn't really have any type of prejudice towards certain business practices or things you can't do. So many people get caught in this rut of saying, well, you can't do it because no one does it that way. Well, I didn't know what everyone else did, so I just did it my way. Sometimes it didn't work, but a lot of times doing it, taking the left lane instead of the right lane worked out for me. And so same thing with marketing. Back in those days, it sounds like a grandpa, right? But back in those days, everybody used yellow page ads and even newspaper ads. And so I followed the herd early on and said, that's what I'll do too. But it didn't take me long to figure out. I just didn't have the marketing budget to really take over the market like I had planned. I knew for us to go national, I had to own Pensacola. And if I didn't own Pensacola, that's silly. You can't take a brand national after that. And
I
so
like
we
that. So you
weren't.
got to own your backyard first.
Absolutely. Well, we weren't owning our backyard. The first 2 years, we really struggled out of the gate and lost money every single day. It was a grind. And about 2 years in, I said, "Why am I doing the same thing everyone else is doing? This is ridiculous." And so, again, this is going to date me, but back in those days, we did digital marketing, SEO. Those were things that were as foreign language as they could ever be. And
Right.
so, in our world, the cleaning world at the time, it was like still prehistoric, but it hadn't caught up to anything digital. So I just immersed myself in all those things and became an expert in everything from, like I said, SEO and PPC. And that allowed us to sort of be first to market on that side of the fence, in terms of marketing. And we grew exponentially over the course of that. From that 0 month to the 24th month, we basically were flat. We didn't have any real serious growth. And from the second to the third year, our business looked completely different and never looked the same after that.
How did you bootstrap early in the early days? Did you have enough money saved? Did your wife support you at the time? Like what was you just take out credit card debt? Did you take out a small business loan? Like how'd you build the business?
Yeah, so I knew for a long time that I wanted to own a business. And so prior to that, I was working in Atlanta. I actually have a chemistry background, so I was working inside a laboratory, and just was 100% focused, almost obsessed, you'd call it, on this idea of entrepreneurship. And so I didn't have any money. Family thought I was crazy. Friends thought I was crazy. There was no bank
Those are
willing
all
to.
good signs, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, it is true. But a bank, I was again very naive. I thought you could walk into a bank and submit a business proposal and walk out with six figures, But I tried that and didn't walk out with $6, much less six figures. And so I had to do it
They didn't
myself.
even validate your parking, I bet.
Probably not. And so I just started saving money. I started working side jobs. It took me 6 years. And so it was a 6 year journey from $0 to $150,000, all from just, blood, sweat, and tears, And so all the things you hear about of an entrepreneur who's just trying to do it without any kind of financial support, that was my life for 6 years. I had to change my lifestyle. I had to do things I didn't like. I never knew how to cook either, but I worked in restaurants just as, a grill chef or whatever, and whatever I could do to earn another extra dollar, even if it was at nights or on the
So by
weekend.
day, you're learning marketing. You're
Yeah. Yeah,
You're trying to figure all that out. And by night, you're working out. You're working in the restaurants to basically get
that's
food
what I did.
just to be
But
able
I
to feed yourself.
finally pinched enough pennies to get to $150,000. And that's when I said, okay, this was no business plan at all, but it was just a big round number. It felt like 150 million, you know. And so I
Yeah.
used that 150 to seed the initial business in Pensacola and went to business.
So obviously the first 2 years you're flat or losing money. So you've seen that 150 kind of dwindle down. But
For
let's
sure.
fast forward, right? So you solved that through marketing and through just sheer effort and being just an entrepreneur. And I think that's one of the most beautiful thing about entrepreneurs is we figure things out, right? Just you got to figure it the f out, right? And great things happen. And those who don't figure it out, they end up not being in business, you know. But now you're running Pensacola. So tell me what the thought like. How did you move to the next? What was your plan on moving to the next, city, town, state? What'd you do next?
So again, remember that was my vision. Before the word vision was cool, like I was living by it. I had a vision in my head, a dream in my head that we were going to build this small cleaning business in Pensacola, Florida, into a national brand. And so that was
How did you? But
everything.
by the way, though, you're a chemical and you're a chemical engineer guy. How did you come up with cleaning? Like, how'd you get into like? How'd you even say I think this is the wave of the
So
future?
I am going to, some people will think I'm great when I say this. Others are going to go, man, that guy's a huge nerd. But I have always been, well, from college on, a huge fan of Warren Buffett, not because of the billions of dollars and all that stuff that everybody relates to when they hear his name, but he loves boring, dry businesses. You know, he owns underwear companies and insurance companies, trains, and stuff like that. Nobody cares about those. There's none of you don't need code to run those businesses. And so he's always shied away from technology and just loved unsexy businesses because no one else does except consumers, the people that pay for those products or services. And so I wanted to be in a boring business. I had new services just because in the laboratory, we actually were in the service industry. It was professional technical services. But still, I saw the power of recurring revenue and wanted to be in another like type of industry. But I wanted to be in one, again, that hadn't been attacked or disrupted yet. And so that's what led me to cleaning. But Warren Buffett, I never had a chance to meet him, but he was the person who first put me on to the idea of how sexy, boring businesses can be.
Well, everybody wants to be a movie star. No one wants to be in waste management. And I call property management the waste management of real estate. Right? No one wants
Uh,
to be a property manager. All right. So now take me to the next when you leveled up. How'd you get the money? What that
yeah.
look like? How'd you break into a new market?
So I was fortunate. We started making a lot of money, honestly, in Pensacola. We did really well, became the dominant cleaning company in the area, mainly because, again, every time I talked to someone, whether it was in a formal setting, like, to a group of people, or if it was just over a drink with a friend, I was obsessed with the idea of going national. So I would tell everybody that I met that that's what my plan was. And so there became a little bit of local traction from that story. And we grew because of all of that. Some of the innovative marketing things we were doing were working as well. And when that started happening, I just reinvested most of that cash flow into the business. And we started opening multiple corporate locations. Eventually, we opened 12 corporate locations across the Southeast from the Carolinas down to Florida. And things were going
All
really well.
self-funded. All self-funded. You didn't go out and get any money.
Self-funded, yeah. Never
Wow.
reached out for any capital. And so when we started growing, things were really going well,
I'm
but we
guessing
started
that's when the
having,
big guy started tapping on your shoulder at that point.
well, later on, not quite at that stage, but
Okay.
at a certain point, I got tapped on the shoulder every other day. In some cases, literally walking into the office, making crazy offers that seemed too good to be true. But at that time, we were still sort of under the radar because it was cleaning. We weren't franchising at the time; it was just corporate stores, and so
Yeah.
we reached that 12 store sort of ceiling, and I had a problem with my hands because we didn't really have the infrastructure to support. We had 200 or so employees across the network at the time, and we had a corporate office of 2.5 people, and so we just couldn't keep that pace up. And so I knew that I was going to have to invest more resources towards the infrastructure inside the corporate office, or I was going to have to grow a different way. And I didn't know anything about franchising at the time, except bad things. I'd heard some negative things that kind of scared me. And so I stayed away from it, but I was very fortunate. I have a lot of luck in my life, and this was one of the more fortunate things that happened. I went to a franchise conference and dumbed my way into a meeting with a guy named Fred DeLuca. Does that name ring a bell? He was the founder of Subway,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so Fred's like Subway and McDonald's is kind of what most people think of, at least I do when you think franchising. Those two brands are synonymous with that. And so I met him, chance meeting. We spent an entire day together when we first met. He was a wealth of knowledge, even in just that 1 day setting, but we went on to forge a relationship, a friendship. He passed away a couple years after that, but during that 2 year time frame, he taught me everything he knew about franchising and charged $0. It was amazing. And so
Wow.
I learned how to be a great franchisor from the godfather, basically, of franchising, and went on to pivot and kind of move away from the corporate growth strategy into franchising, which became a really critical decision because it changed everything about one, my own personal life, but obviously the brand as well. We took off and really never looked back from that point forward.
So I'm gonna pause there because I want to get back to that. But a question I had, I was thinking as you're telling us, with property management, one of the challenges we have, because we're a service-based business, is as we grow, we have to hire more people. And so your profit and your expense line kind of grows together.
Mhm.
Where did you find, or how did you get those numbers, that profit to grow exponentially and your expenses to kind of flatten out or at least see that gap?
Well, it's kind of a boring answer, but it's the real answer. It's systems, So I did not have a lot of efficiency. I mentioned those 12 corporate stores. There was a time there where we would have the same top line, but the bottom line from market to market was significantly different. And that was mainly because Charlotte, North Carolina was doing it differently than Atlanta, Georgia, or Pensacola, Florida. And so we knew how to generate revenue. That strategy was working. We had process around that, but we didn't have enough process into the daily operations. And so I spent a considerable amount of time, even brought in consultants to help us improve it. But we built an actual business plan, an operations manual on how to operate this business. And so it took us about a year, but from that first of that year to the end of that year, we created a streamlined like business model that allowed for the bottom line to look the same no matter what market you were in. And so that's what worked for us. I think that probably works for every business, franchising or not. If you, especially if you have multiple units like I did, if you don't, we had some people in Charlotte, for instance, who said, "Well, we we use different products to clean in North Carolina. Florida's different, so you use those, but we got to use our products." Well, those products were different. They maybe were costly. They just didn't produce the same results. So we had customer service issues, and I was again naive and said, "Okay, do it your way." And that made someone happy. We got through that day. We survived a day and made a decision, but it cost us later on. And so the same goes for accounting to again marketing and so on. Everything inside a business has to be streamlined. If it's not, you open yourself up to really serious inefficiency.
Yeah, and I'm sure back then you could streamline it, but with checklists and so forth. Now we have, systems and automation that can be put in to make things even
Oh my
more
gosh, we had
efficient.
these old school flow charts, and they were
You speaking my language, Ron. I love flowcharts.
well, I love them too, but it was a dying process, but it was the only one we could really start with. It's now fully automated. It's still flowcharts. It's just all digital and automated now. But
Sure.
yeah, we
Sure.
had some old school printed flowcharts.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, first thing is you have to flow chart you have to basically flow chart your business flows, all your processes, because you have to know what you're actually doing. When I did mine, when I owned my property management firm, I couldn't believe all the stuff that my team like. Oh, we don't do this. Wait, what do you mean you don't do that? Or we both do this. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean you guys both do this? So we found so many issues within our processes. And then only once you have your process ironed out can you actually do the automation. So we have something called Lead Simple. There's Asana, there's Process Tree, there's all these tools out there. But those tools will only make things worse if you put garbage in. Garbage comes out just much faster.
Right.
So streamload those steam. What is it? Steamroll those processes.
That's
All
right.
right. So now you're making some money. I'm assuming all these processes you created now became the blueprint for the franchise, like what the
Right.
franchisees are going to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's not the original reason for
Yeah, it was
the
survival was the original
right,
reason.
but it turned out to be a real helpful sort of start for us to start franchising because we already had everything. We had vendors aligned with preferred rates, with contact people, personal contacts at each one of the vendors. We had actual systems like you talked about flow charts. How do you enter a home as a house cleaning service when someone's home versus how do you enter a home when no one's home? That's a real thing. It seems trivial, but it's a real thing. And
Right.
so all of those things were streamlined. And so, yeah, once we started offering this as a franchise opportunity, we didn't really have to do all of that. That's what most brands have to do if they want to franchise it. They have to sit down and take all that information that's in their head and document it and put it on paper and then figure out a way to digitize it as well. And so
Yep.
all of that had been done for us because we went through that process prior. We just had to figure out how to find people who wanted to invest in a franchise. That was early on, that was a little bit of a battle for us. But once we figured that out, like anything, things got a lot better for
So
us.
take me through real high level. What does that look like to franchise? Because I hear, it's like millions of dollars to put all the documents together, and it's, so what is it millions of dollars to put the documents together?
I, you know, I've got two experiences now. One where we had corporate stores that funneled cash to the corporate office to where we are at Pink Zebra Moving. We didn't have the benefit of cash flow from corporate offices, and I can tell you that it is a seven-figure investment,
Yeah.
in my opinion, to
Okay.
build a franchise brand because not only do you have to do all the things I said, not only do you have all the legal stuff that you've got to have in place, but you also have to have the people in place to support franchisees, which sounds fine, just go hire people. But early on, you may only have a half dozen
One
franchise
franchise,
locations.
one franchise. Yeah.
You may have 12 people in your corporate office supporting six people. Because you have to build it before they come, right? And so it's an expensive endeavor. Now we were fortunate at Two Maids. Like I said, we had those 12 corporate stores. 11 of those 12 we sold as franchise operations. And since they were all growing and profitable, they demanded a premium. And so we were able to use the proceeds from those 11 transactions to fund our franchise development and growth. And then we sort of had a win-win situation since they purchased it from us, but they also started paying us a royalty because they
Right.
became franchises immediately. So that was a unique way to enter franchising. Most people don't enter that way. Most people have an idea, open a pilot store like we did at Pink Zebra Movie, create success, and then go from store one on. And so we didn't know it at the time, like a lot of things, but it was sort of a blessing in disguise that we took so long to franchise it.
So let's talk about the exit. How long did you run Two Maids before you decided to exit, and why did you exit? And I'm assuming that you're kind of like everybody else that's an entrepreneur. You cannot just go retire, and that's why Pink Zebra got
That's
created.
exactly right. Well,
So,
so there's
yeah.
two reasons. That's one. The other is I'm a dad of two young kids, and so there was after I sold the business, my daughter who was 6 at the time, I was driving her to school. That was my thing. I'm going to be like dad of the year, and so I'm like going carpool lines and all those things, right? And so she said, "Dad, all my friends' dads work. Why don't you?" I said, "Well, all right. I gotta go back to work." So that was a real thing that happened. But even before that, I had some motivations to stay inside the home service. I love home services. I think there are very sexy industries in this world, and was looking for an opportunity. I just couldn't find it, and so kind of
So
going back
before
to the
that,
two
though,
mates.
what made you sell? What made
Yeah,
you?
so part of it was there's sort of two parts. One was I don't like corporate America. I don't like corporate America, and that's why I started a business. And so
You're unemployable, is what you're telling
pretty
me. You're
much, I would be the
unemployable.
worst
Yeah.
employee ever,
Yeah.
worst franchisee ever, probably too. But I I hated corporate America even in my early 20s, and so when I started a business, that was my escape from that rat race. And so all of a sudden, fast forward again, 19
You're
years
back in the
later,
rat race, aren't you?
and I'm like, I look around and I'm in meetings all day, and I'm doing things that don't necessarily produce immediate results, which is what I need as an entrepreneur. I need to show my work. I need to know that something happened for my
You're
investment
becoming a
time.
CEO of a bigger company, and
Yeah,
big companies they maneuver like barges versus the speedboat that you're used to.
that's exactly right. And I didn't know it because I was just so busy working that I didn't see it happening, but it
Mhm.
was happening and it did happen. And so that was part one. There was this just self-reflection where I realized I was inside corporate America all of a sudden, even though I was the owner
You
of this
built it.
business. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then the second was, again, you remember I
Like
keep
you're gonna
saying,
stick it to the man, but
yeah,
you are the man, Ron.
yeah, that's
I know.
right.
I'm gonna stick it to myself.
Well, my mother-in-law, we're based in Birmingham, Alabama, and my mother-in-law had hired a moving company here locally, and it did not go well for her. It was all the bad things you can think of when you think moving, and on top of that, the cost was much higher than she anticipated, like 3 times what she anticipated, and it was terrible.
You
And
mean
so
what
she reached
what she was actually quoted? Now is it?
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She was
Yeah.
quoted X, and it was 3X,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it was a tough situation for her. She was very emotional about it, and she reached out to me once you start a business and are successful, then everybody calls you because apparently you have all the answers. And so she called me and said, "What do I do here?" And my wife's immediate reaction was, write a 1-star nasty review, which I said, fine, go ahead and do that. But why don't we just start a business to counter that? Like, is this happening everywhere or did it just happen to you? And so we started doing research. Our research was extremely high level. Like we went to Yelp. And so I went to Yelp and I went to Seattle, Omaha, and Miami. And I went straight to the 1-star reviews. And all of those 1-star reviews in those 3 markets matched my mother-in-law's experience. So I said, oh my gosh, there's a huge problem in this industry because most of these people were not just getting a poor service, but they were paying thousands of dollars to get this poor service. And so I said at that point, there it is. I'm really struggling inside this world I've created, this corporate world I've created. I want to start fresh and start something new and have a different purpose in life.
So
And
interesting. You actually found the purpose before you decided to exit. Yeah. Like you didn't
correct.
exit first, sitting there like, oh man, now what do I do? That's okay. That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I didn't know how long it would take to sell the business. And that was pretty amazing how quickly it sort of just occurred because I went from, do I want to sell it to literally 42 days later. People don't believe me when I say this, but 42 days later, I had sold the business that I had basically become known for most of my adult life. And,
Wow.
all of a sudden, there I am taking kids to carpool, and my daughter is asking, why am I not working? So I was working. She didn't see that. I was working in the basement, just sort of planning the moving company concept. And a lot of that, I wanted to do it right the first, when we first started out. And so I wanted all the processes in place. I didn't want to just sort of throw some
What
money at it and
who
say,
bought you?
go.
Was it an individual? Was it a PE firm? Who ended up? Because now
So
I'm sure you're big at this point. You got, you're worth
yeah,
millions at this point. There's not too many people running around millions in their pocket.
yeah, we had 93 locations at the time. Uh, and we were fortunate to be able to sell to a family partnership that focused on home service franchises. And they were really looking for specifically a cleaning brand. And we were the largest brand available for the market. We had built the two maids from this one store location in Pensacola to the one of the top 3 residential cleaning brands in the country
Wow.
over that 19-year time
How many
frame. And so
franchises did you have when you sold?
we had 93 locations open.
93 locations.
Yeah, yeah, it
Amazing.
was it was a pretty cool journey. And
All right.
so
So yeah. So tell me about Pink Zebra now, as we get ready to wind down here. So tell me a little bit about Pink Zebra. So you found a pain point, typical entrepreneur, did a little bit of research, said, yep, I can do this all over again. And did you start with the franchise model right away? Or are you grinding it out? Where are you in the life cycle of Pink Zebra?
yeah, so we're franchising now. The first 2 years we just wanted to focus on operations. So we opened 2 corporate locations, one here in our backyard of
In the
Birmingham
ham?
and
You're in the ham?
yeah, the Ham, and then the other in my college um, hometown of Athens, Georgia,
Okay.
and said, let's go, and so we had to learn everything, like the basic stuff, like where do you get trucks, to much bigger stuff, like how do you get customers, and so that was also coming on sort of the back end of the boom from COVID. During COVID, there was this real estate, boom, and we were on the back end of that. and
And
said
here
that's
you
the
are in
perfect time.
2020, but I could think of two or three franchise models of moving companies already. So that you're walking into a different world than you did back in 2003 when when you were starting out
For
with
sure.
two. Yeah.
That is true. And that early on, I was like, well, gosh, these guys have been there, done that, like, where do I see my place? And so I'm a big fan of this book called The Purple Cow. A guy named Seth Godin wrote it, and it's a phenomenal book. It's actually 20 plus years old now, but the basic principle was, if you were to drive through this pasture of, in the country where there's a bunch of cows, they all would look the same, and you would drive past them and never remember that moment in your time or in your life ever again. But if one of those cows was purple, 20 years later, you would remember that moment and that time and that place when you saw a purple cow. So the same thing occurs in a business. And so I said, I see all these friction points inside the moving industry. Yes, there's some major players that have been around for a long time, but if as good as they are, if they were have already, if those friction points are still there, that tells me they haven't done something about it. And so I made this big goal for us to create a whole new category. We call ourselves the world's first happy moving company. And so I wanted to make moving fun. I know that sounds crazy, but I wanted to make moving fun for customers. I wanted people to look forward to hiring a moving company. I wanted there to be some intrigue, some excitement. And so I made that our mission from day one, to go out and literally put on a show when we serve a customer. And if you want, I can tell you some things we do, but it's a
Yeah.
actual.
Let's hear. Let's give me a quick list.
Yeah. So what we're most known for is our free dinner. So the night before a move, we call all of our customers and we offer them a free meal, and we deliver it to them. Sometimes they actually say, I want it the night of the move, but most of the time it's the night before. And it's a simple gesture, right? It doesn't really even cost that much money, but it usually creates this really strong positive emotion. Sometimes it's happy tears, but either way, positive emotion. And it gets this whole journey started off on the right way. Moving
Right.
companies in general treat their customers like they're just a ticket, a transaction. And
Right.
there's two guys show up or more, and they're strangers, and they work and perform manual labor. And that's how the service is defined. So I felt like we could do more than just perform good manual labor. I wanted to create a relationship with our customers. And so I chose the emotion fun and happy to do it because it's fun
Funny
and
is
happy.
money.
Yeah.
Money means money. Yeah.
And so we try to bring our customers as close to us as we possibly can. By the end of our journey with us, they know who we are and we know who they are. And so it starts with the free food. Everybody loves the free food. One of our other sort of trademark moves is toward the end of the move experience with us, we'll leave behind what we call a surprise box. Inside the surprise box is uh, all sorts of things, from just chocolates and sweets to a personalized gift of some sort. So if you were I'm going to make up something here. If you were a Notre Dame fan living in Florida, that's kind of different, right? And
Yep.
we would use that we would use that personal knowledge to our advantage, and we would maybe
Right.
throw in a
And
Irish
you just get that
koozie.
knowledge by having relationships with your clients and
There's a little cyber stalking
or you
involved,
stalking them. Yeah, I would say you're
yeah,
stalking them a little bit.
but there's a
Okay.
lot of questions involved as well. And so we do that. We play music throughout the house. We have a mascot named Zeke who comes out, and he's always fun. We do a little exercise routine to start the day. They do jumping jacks, push-ups, you name it. All in all, we think moving is theater, and we literally put on a show. And while we do perform manual labor, there's some hard work done through all this fun stuff.
I bet. I
At the
bet.
end of the day,
I've moved couches before. It's
yeah,
not fun.
yeah. What we want, at least at the end of the day, is for our customers to go, man, that was fun, and we want them to tell other people, like, you got to hire Pink Zebra Moving. They're fun,
Right.
because it doesn't have to be so horrible, right? When you think about a moving company that you've hired in the past, if you've ever done this before, usually it's so sterile, and at best, it's just okay. It's never great, right? It's just
Right.
okay
Like
or
a
terrible.
commodity almost,
Right.
right?
It's
It's like
exactly.
you're
And
buying
so
milk. Yeah.
we think we can do different. Like I said, we call ourselves the world's first happy moving company. And we think that down the road, you ask how we're going to separate ourselves. We think down the road, there's going to be people who go, hey, did you hire one of those old school movers or one of those happy movers? And that's us. We're going to start that.
Going to create a whole new genre
Yeah,
inside the moving industry.
exactly. We're right now we're a category of one, but we think other people are going to follow along with us, including our franchisees, of course.
Now, how many franchisees do you have at Pink Zebra right now?
Yeah, we have 10 locations open, mostly in the Southeast because we're based here, but the national growth has begun now. And so we have several, we have 7 more in pre-open. Pre-open takes about four months. So we have some as far north as Boston and Jersey, some down in Florida. As we go out far out west as Denver, Colorado. And so we're pretty excited about what's in front of us. And again, we're doing this all over again. We've already done this with 2
And I
majors. And
have
so
to
the growth.
assume you didn't spend any days moving anything.
So yes and no. I have driven the trucks just because I wanted to say I could do it, and I have spent one day out in the field just to say I've done it. But I am not young anymore, and so I can't. This is a young man's profession.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I'm thinking like, man, I'm like my 50s. I don't really want to be moving, furniture and couches and
Yeah,
pianos and stuff.
who's some of our best movers are females. You wouldn't. It's
Really?
surprising, but yeah, we have some female movers that are really strong people that because not only can they do the work, but they can relate to the customers.
Right, right.
The young and gruff men just sometimes they want to just pick up stuff and move it.
Yeah. See thing, move thing.
Yeah,
Hey, I'll say if you're listening to this and you're a property manager and you sold your business, give Ron a call. Maybe you want to get a franchise with the
yeah.
first happy moving company in the country, in the world even. All right, Ron, we're gonna take a quick break and then we're right back in and we're gonna put you in the lightning round where I'm gonna ask you a series of questions. We'll be right back, everybody. All right, welcome back. I got Ron Holt here with Pink Zebra Moving. Ron, thanks so much for jumping on the podcast. Are you ready for the lightning round?
I hope so. I'm a little nervous, Pete. So we'll see what happens
Yeah.
here.
All right. What's one piece of advice you'd give somebody just starting out in business?
That's a great question, and I love it because I think it's more important than anything else. So I said this during our interview, vision. You gotta be able to dream big. People get so caught up in day-to-day nuances of a business, and those are obviously important. But when you go through those day-to-day operational things, they're going to drag you down in some cases. Some problems are good, a lot of problems are bad. And so when you get caught in that bad, just sort of cycle, you sometimes can say, you know what, this is painful. Like I'm tired of losing money. I'm tired of dealing with this. I quit. And if you don't know where you're going and you don't know why you're going somewhere, then your work will never feel like it matters. And so if you have a plan, if you have a vision for your future and you actually articulate and document it, and you truly 100% believe in it, then all those bad problems, even good problems, won't really feel like problems. They'll just feel like a step toward the dream of making that vision come to life.
Love it. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. As long as cheese is on it.
What was your first job?
Okay. Well, do you mean like as a teenager or as an adult?
Yeah, in general, your first job as a teenager. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was on a crew. I'm a big sports nut, and my dad was too. And so he somehow landed me at this job at my local high school. We built the high school football stadium, and so I was this young idiot that didn't know how to use a screwdriver, building the bleachers and the press box and all the things you need to build a football stadium. So
Very
it
cool.
was eye opening for me.
What is your ideal vacation?
Oh, that's an easy one. This is going to sound crazy to most people at least, but I am a huge fan of heat and humidity, not just heat, but heat and humidity.
Oh,
So I
smoke
would go
together.
as far south as I could. And if I could live there, but at the very least vacation there. So from the Virgin Islands to South Florida, you throw me there and I'll land
You're
there and
good.
stay as long as you'll let
All
me.
right. If you could have dinner with anyone alive, who would it be?
I bet you know the answer to this one.
I
So
do know the answer.
Warren Buffett, no doubt
Warren
about
Buffett.
it.
Yeah.
He's
Okay.
he's my hero.
I think I know the answer to this one, but what is one book you're currently reading or one that's impacted your business or life?
Yeah, I've read way too many books in my life, but I have to say the same thing I've already said, but definitely The Purple Cow. It is a great book. When you read it, you're going to go, well, that I get that. That's common sense. But very few businesses actually put those principles into place. People think hard work and money are the secrets to business success. Obviously, they're a part of it. Can't do it without hard work or money. But
Mhm.
hard work and money alone is not what builds great businesses. Being different and unique is what does that. And Purple Cow is the
Yeah.
perfect story to learn from all that.
Don't be better, be different, right?
That's right.
What Disney character do you most associate with?
Well, what if I just said Walt Disney? Is that okay if I did?
Uh, I'm good. Well, I'm not going to edit it out. So you want to say Walt Disney? I'm good with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I
he
actually
might.
am. I actually associate more with Roy than I do Walt.
I could see
I'm the
that.
process guy, So yeah,
Yeah, Walt likes the show, and that's what Pink Zebra Moving is known for.
I'll say Jiminy Cricket. How about that? We'll call
Okay.
him Jiminy Cricket. He's the show. He's the showman. What's one challenge you're currently facing in your business?
So the current challenge is I didn't live this at Two Maids. So I had 12 corporate stores and then basically sold 11 of those 12 as franchises and then said, let's go. Well, what I didn't realize is those 11 franchise owners were validators for all the new guys. And so when a new guy hit a valley or had some kind of issue they were dealing with, they could just reach out to one of those 11, and one of those 11 franchisees said, well, this is how you do it, and this is why you should do it,
Been
but
there,
look at
done
me.
that. Yep.
Well, here at Pink Zebra Moving, everybody's young. Our oldest franchisee is only 14 months old. And so there's no mentor to look to. Now that'll change. Time will cure that. But we don't have old franchisees right now. So the only people they listen to for mentorship is me, our home office team. So that's a huge challenge because, it takes some belief. There's not enough real life results for success.
Right.
And so it takes a lot of believing, which we're getting there. Things are going really well. But that's our biggest challenge right now.
Prefer dogs or cats?
100 dogs. Yeah.
Dog guy. All
How
right.
about you?
All right. I'm a dog. I have one of each, but I'm a dog guy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're out of the lightning round, Ron. So congratulations.
Did I pass?
You've passed flying colors. So if somebody is listening to this and they want to get in touch with you, whether just to pick your brain or maybe even buy a franchise from you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'll give you two options here. If you're a consumer that just kind of wants to be a part of the show and see what all the crazy stuff that we do looks like in real life, then go to pinkzebramoving.com. We're in multiple markets again across the country. Hopefully we're in your market and we'd love to put the show on for you. If you are interested in the franchise opportunity, go to pinkzebramovingfranchise.com, and we've got investment expectations, things that we do for you as the franchisor. We even got some testimonials from some of our franchise owners to see what their life has looked like so far. And you can also apply to become a franchise candidate with us there as well. So either one of those, if you want to see the show live and in action, pinkzebramoving.com, or if you want a franchise opportunity, it's pinkzebramovingfranchise.com.
And if you want to join NARPM and you're not a member, then go to NARPM, NARPM.org, or call them at 800-782-3452. And if you're looking to hire low cost, high valued remote team workers, then give us a shout at vpmsolutions.com. And we have over 38,000 profiles on the platform at these times. Ron, thanks so much for being here. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.